Alrighty, can you guys hear me? Everyone, let me know in the chat if you can hear me. Good. We're gonna go ahead and start. All right, sounds good. You guys can hear me. Awesome. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start. Today we are starting with the recertification information. So my name is Daisy, and I am with the Lake County Housing Authority Housing Counseling Department. Again, if you just joined, I do want to let you know we are recording this call. So if you do not want your face to be shown, please turn off your camera. Again, it's going to be posted on YouTube. A second, guys. Okay. So before we get started, I want to briefly highlight the resources that we offer through housing counseling. On the screen, you can see the resources that we offer. We do offer financial literacy, fair housing, budgets, banking, credit, rental counseling, home purchase, foreclosure prevention. If any of these resources are of interest of you, you can scan the QR code on the screen, on the slide, which will take you directly to our intake form. You can also find our intake form on our website. You guys can't see me. Can you guys see my screen?
We can see you and we can see the screen as well.
Okay. All right, good. So like I said, if you are interested in any of these resources, please go ahead and scan the QR code. You will find the intake form on our website as well. So go ahead and check that out. Here is the upcoming workshops that we have coming up. As you can see, we have a whole bunch of workshops that are coming up. Again, there is another QR code that you can go ahead and scan if you are interested in any of these workshops in order to get some information on any of these things. All right. Today, I'll be your host and I'll be guiding the conversation and asking the questions. And we're going to be joined by two of our program experts who will be providing the information. And we have Yanitza. She is a HCB program coordinator, and we have Solomon, who is a HCB contract manager. So they are the experts here. They will be answering our questions. They will be giving out all the information that is needed. All right. Um, all right, so today's workshops, we're going to be going over recertifications, interims, and rent increases. Okay, at the end of the call, we will have a Q&A. So if you do have any questions, you can go ahead and put them in the Q&A chat box, and we will go ahead and answer those at the end of the slideshow. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and start with the recertifications. I have a couple of questions that I'm going to be asking Yanitza, who she will be talking about research. So first and foremost, I do want to go ahead and start and ask you, Yanni, how often does a research occur?
Hello. So a recertification occurs once a year. So every year they are to come into our office to recertify for their subsidy.
Okay, perfect. And how do we know when the research is coming up?
So our tenants, we do have a new portal that we use. It's called Rent Cafe. So they will get excuse me, initiating for them to go onto our portal, and then they will also get an appointment letter, which will also indicate what date and time to come into our office to meet with us in person.
Okay, what if they haven't updated their contact information recently?
So they do get it mailed out to them. So they will get a
Okay.
letter in the mail. However, we do ask that if a phone number changes, that they update us so that we have updated information for them.
Okay, and who schedules the appointment for the recertifications?
The certification specialist that's assigned to that individual.
Perfect. Who in the family has to attend the recertification?
All adults in the household are required to come into the office.
Okay, can I bring my kids to the research to the office? Am I able to bring my kids?
So we understand that sometimes childcare doesn't always plan out, or they have to do what they have to do to bring. So they have to bring their kids. We definitely understand. We do ask though that if you bring your children, that your children, you have something to distract them for a little bit while you're sitting with us, just so that we can get through the paperwork. And if they have any questions, that we're able to answer anything that they need. 'Cause I understand how it is. I'm a mom myself, so I know when you bring kids. It can be kind of a distraction. So, but we understand if you have to bring your kids.
Okay, perfect. And are we able to attend the recertification appointment via Zoom?
So now we do ask that the appointment be in person. However, if there's a certain accommodation that needs to be done for the individual, we try our best to accommodate, as these are very important forms that need to be filled out annually. So those are kind of on kind of case by case scenario. But like I said, we try our best to accommodate them, but we would definitely prefer an in-person appointment.
Okay, what happens if I miss my appointment or if a family member can't attend the appointment?
We can schedule a second appointment. We're very flexible in regards to scheduling appointments. So if we understand if you have to work or if you can't make it or car troubles, we can definitely send out a second appointment notice.
Okay, perfect. All right, let's go ahead and move forward to
And
the, oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I'm so sorry. So I do see that someone indicate this in the chat. So if you cannot get into Run Cafe, what happens is we can help you when you come in person. Your certification specialist will assist you in getting onto your Run Cafe portal and will guide you on how to submit the documents, how to answer the questions. So if you can't get into it before your appointment date, that's okay. When you come in person, that's what we're here for. We're here to assist you.
Perfect. So let's go ahead and move forward for the required documentations. You can just go ahead and briefly go over like the documents that are needed.
So the proof of identification is, so you're going to bring in your ID. If it's your first appointment, then yes, we'll require your ID and your birth certificate and social security. However, we should already have that on file. So if it's your annual, we don't typically require it unless you're a new addition to the member to the household. Or if someone is turning 18 for their annual recertification, then we will ask them to bring a most current ID. But your birth certificate, your social security card, and your ID should typically be in the file if it's your annual, if it's like the third annual or so on. That's typically more for the people who are new onto our program.
Okay, perfect. What happens if my ID is expired at the time of my appointment? Would I have to reschedule?
No, no.
Okay, perfect. All right. Here, these are other required, well, income, right? Proof of income.
Correct. Yes, they're to bring most recent. We like typically dated within 60 days, but we want the most recent consecutive pay stubs. And I tell this to everybody, if you don't have a printer, it's okay. When you come into the office, you can email it to us and we can assist you in regards to like printing out the documentation if needed, or we can upload it for you directly into SharePoint, or excuse me, into Rent Cafe. So if you don't have a printer, we do let them know that no worries. You can always email it. If you can't access to upload, we can upload for you. But we just ask that you have on hand your most recent consecutive pay stubs, or any other sources of income.
Okay, so for the pay stubs, would it be like the most recent four pay stubs or eight, the last 2 months?
For pay stubs, we ask for your last two most recent consecutive.
Okay,
However, if there is a difference greater than 200 between the two pay stubs, we will ask for a third.
okay, perfect. So as you guys can see on the screen, there is an example of what is considered proof of income. So self-employed income, independent contractor income, wages, salaries, overtime, commissions. Um,
Yeah,
also,
the only time that we would ask for something more than a month would be, for example, someone who's self-employed, or someone that has a different source of pay frequency. So, like if someone was to get paid monthly, then we're going to ask for 3 months of that verification. So it all just depends as well on how often the pay frequency is for whatever source of income it is.
okay, perfect.
Mhm.
Alrighty, so that is the proof of income for all adults 18 and over. Um, let's talk about income that is not included. So we have on here the screen, we have SNAP payments not included, correct? Employment income earned by minors, income of a living aid. These are not, this is not, they don't have to show proof of these, correct?
Correct. So anything listed here, we're not going to ask for verification of. However, if you do have SNAP benefits, we are going to just ask how much you receive. We don't count it against your rent. It's just more for reporting purposes.
Okay, perfect. What about assets? Do I need to prove those?
Correct. So for your assets, you are going to bring in your bank statement. I do see that question being asked. Yes, you are required to bring in your most recent bank statement. And we are going to ask for all pages of that bank statement.
Okay. So here, this is actually the proof of assets slide. So bank statements, proof of investments, proof of retirement plans.
Mhm.
Okay, perfect. So can you go ahead and talk about the mandatory allowances?
Yes, so when we're looking at the household, we do have allowances. So we have for each dependent, which is a minor. 480 is the allowance, and then 480 for full-time students. So what that means is if you have an 18-year-old in your household and they are a full-time student, they will be coded from an adult back down to a full-time student, which gives that family that 480 allowance. And then for any elderly family or disabled families, it's 400. So what this means is it's not exactly taken off. It's just an allowance that it's like a $12 deduction into the rent, basically.
Okay, perfect. So the documents required for the mandatory allowances, we have here, what are the documents that they can use to verify the student status?
So we're going to request that we get something from the school, something from the registrar's office, if it's a college or university. Sometimes it could be in high school. So if a high school, we're going to ask for a letter from the school, something to indicate that the individual is still a full-time student attending that university or high school.
Okay, and for the verification of expenses for childcare, how would they prove that?
So they can provide something from the daycare, or sometimes it gets a Y subsidy from the YWCA. So they can submit the reward letter as well.
Okay, perfect. So if they do have a medical care cost, what documents can they provide for that?
As far as the medical, we are going to ask that they submit receipts, proof of payment that they have paid out of pocket, and it has to be from the last year, within that last year. If it was reported for the last annual, we're not going to recount it, but if it's something within that last year, we will look at it and we look at again what they paid out of pocket. So receipts, they can go to, for example, Walgreens if they use Walgreens as a pharmacy and request a printout of what they paid out of pocket for their medication or something they paid towards their doctor's office. The key here is receipts to show proof of payment from the individual, from the tenant.
Okay, perfect. So what happens if I cannot get the exact documents required by the due date?
By the due date that we give them. So they do get a 14-day notice to submit the documentation. At the end of the 14 days, we do ask it for another 14 typically. We also try ourselves to request a third-party verification. So on our end, while they're working to get that verification, we are as well.
Okay. Or do you guys accept any like attestations that they can submit instead if they don't have
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
can they submit like attestation forms like if they don't have like proof of the doc like if they don't have proof of like for example medical care costs, like is there like an attestation they can submit like a written attestation or they have to have the proof?
No, it would have to be verification.
Okay, perfect. Alrighty, so we'll move forward to we'll move forward to interims. Not sure if is Solomon speaking on that or Yanni. But I do have a few questions on this as well. So we'll go ahead and talk about interim. So Can you explain the basics of an interim, the importance of it?
Yeah, of course. So every year they come into the office for the annual recertification. So anything in between their annual, anything in between the time frame of the annual is called an interim. So whenever they have a change of income, a change of household composition, or any changes that they would like to report in between before the annual, they can do so, and it's called an interim. So we do require that all interims are reported within 10 business days of the change. And it has to be in writing. It can be on a paper, it can be on an email, it can the whole key point here is that they have to report it in writing. That is a very, very, very important key here. And again, when you submit your interim request to your certification specialist or even at the front desk, if you do it here at the front desk, the receptionist will date stamp it and ensure that it goes to the correct search specialist for that individual.
Okay, perfect. Are there any, so are there any special forms that they need to fill out?
So we do have an interim form that they can fill out, but it can be on any piece of paper. It could be on a notebook paper as long as they get it to us in writing and we are able to date stamp it.
Okay, is the new rent portion calculated the same way that research are?
Yeah, so it just depends on the change. We do it the same way that the annuals are done. However, I do see here for voucher size. So if a family is removing, for example, let's say a family is removing an adult son or an adult daughter, and that will impact their size, meaning that their voucher will decrease. We'll change it and we'll let that individual know now and then, like, hey, at your next annual, your voucher size is going to decrease. So we do give the family a heads up as in regards to the voucher size. It will change, but not until the annual recertification or the move, whichever comes first.
Okay, perfect. When does the new rent portion go in effect? Once there's a request?
So it depends on what it is that the individual is reporting. If it's a decrease in rent, it's effective the first of the following month from when they report it. If it's an increase, it's a 30-day notice from when the certification specialist is doing the adjustment. However, if a family fails to report this change and we notice it, it will be effective the first of the following month from when we're changing it. So it all depends. So the key thing is to report it timely and making sure that you're reporting it within those 10 business days. Otherwise, you could see an increase in your rent without that 30-day notice if you fail to report so in a timely manner.
Okay, I see a question on the chat. It says if voucher size decreases, does the family have to move or do they just pay more out of pocket?
So if the voucher size decreases, it's up to the family. They may move. However, yes, they will be responsible for the rent burden. So that extra rent will be on the tenant if they decide to stay.
Okay, perfect. Alrighty, sounds good. Let's go ahead and talk about, not sure why it's not switching. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about rent increases. Mm, Alrighty, so for rent increases, what do I do if the landlord tells me that the rent is going up?
Well, the landlord can bring it to your attention that the rent is going up by possibly giving you a renewal notice, but the landlord must also notify Lake County Housing Authority of that request to increase the rent.
Okay, perfect. Can they increase the rent mid-lease or only at the end of the lease?
Well, it all matters how the lease renews.
Okay,
If the lease renews monthly, they are required to give Lake County Housing Authority 60 days notice prior to the requested effective date of that change. If the lease renews yearly, then that rent increase cannot be implemented until the renewal date or the renewal of the new lease.
okay. Is it the voucher holder's responsibility to notify LCHA or is it the landlord's
That's the
responsibility?
Sorry about that. So the landlord is required to notify Lake County Housing Authority via mail, via the Rent Cafe portal, and or our rent increase request email, which is rentincrease@lakecountyha.org.
Perfect, okay. Do I need to agree to a rent increase it or in order for LCHA to approve it?
Well, our rent increase request forms does have a section on it that client is required to sign and date. If they do agree, Lake County Housing Authority cannot proceed with implementing that rent increase and or processing it without the tenant's signature. The tenant does have a right not to agree to the rent increase request and or the renewal form, but the landlord can terminate the lease and send a non-renewal notice to Lake County Housing Authority on behalf of that unit and that tenant.
Okay. If I do agree with the rent increase, will my portion of rent increase as well?
It fluctuates. One thing that we do utilize, of course, is the tenant's income, but if the tenant income doesn't change and the rent changes, it fluctuates from situation to situation, being the payment standard, the utility allowance calculations, and also the new contract rent amount. So it fluctuates from situation to situation. Sometimes the tenant will take on that increase if they're utilizing say a one bedroom voucher in a two bedroom unit and they possibly maxed out at their subsidy. But again, it fluctuates from situation to situation.
Okay, perfect. Um, so what happens if I do not approve the increase in rent? You mentioned, I believe that they can terminate the lease, correct?
Yeah, the landlord can terminate the lease and send a non-renewal notice to Lake County Housing Authority. And then in turn from there, one of the search specialists will be processing a move.
Okay, perfect. When would the new, if I do agree to the rent increase, when does that new rent portion go in effect?
Once we
Or when
process,
will, yeah, pretty much.
once we process the approved amount, which is not always what the landlord has requested, but the approved amount, it will be implemented the first day of the month, 60 days after the request was submitted to Lake County Housing Authority.
Okay, perfect. So just to confirm, landlord cannot increase the rent without informing LCHA, correct?
Correct.
What happens if the landlord does request an increase of rent without notifying LCHA?
Well, generally when we're made, because again, the lease itself is between the landlord and the tenant. So once we're made aware of that change that's been implemented, which is generally notice that's being given to us by the tenant, we'll reach out to the landlord and we'll refer him back to the housing assistance payment contract that he initially signed, stating that they're not allowed to increase the rent unless it has been approved by Lake County Housing Authority.
Okay, all right, perfect. So I want to go ahead and talk about avoiding common issues. I know you and Yanni both have been doing this for a while. So I kind of want you guys to just briefly go over any common issues that hold up the process, or how can I make sure that there are no delays when it comes to like research or like rent increases or anything like that. Like based on you guys' experience, what are some common issues that come up or situations that you guys have seen often that pretty much delay the process?
So for sure it's documentation. So, we do understand that things happen and, you want to like adjustment in rent, for example. But when you submit for example, an interim or an annual and you want us to update your rent, we understand, but documentation to support the change that you're requesting will help us. So that's another thing is obtaining that verification, a letter of separation, letter of termination, your pay stubs, whatever the change, the supporting documents are very important and can help us speed the process up. We try our best to get to all of our adjustments. We try our best to get it done timely. So that's another thing that can help us is if we have the supporting documentation to process the file.
Okay, cool. Alrighty. Um, all right, so pretty much documentation is the biggest one, correct?
Yes, and communication. Like I said, if something occurs, just communicate with us, give us that notice. Hey, this is changing. This may change, or um, give us a phone call. If we don't answer, leave a voicemail. We'll try our best to get back to you within 24 to 48 hours. When people call and don't leave a voicemail, it's hard for us to know who to get back to. So if you call and we don't answer, leave a voicemail, send an email. Give us messages. That way we know, okay, we got to get back to her. She called on this day, but because we do find it where people say, I called so many times, but no voicemail was left. So we don't know. So please leave a voicemail. Give us an email.
And
Perfect.
just to piggyback off that, that's very important. As we all know, we've been born and raised to know that communication is very key. Whether it's verbal, written, electronically, please communicate. Even if it's you getting in contact with someone that's not directly in contact with you, as far as like a person that you know will answer the phone. As long as we've been made aware, we can transfer calls. We can go touch shoulders with someone and let them know that a certain person is trying to get in contact with them with a sticky note in hand. But the communication is definitely key all the way around the board.
Yes, and we do ask that you are patient with us. We see lots of people. We try our best, like I said, to get to everyone in a timely manner. So we do appreciate any patience and understanding as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. I want to go ahead and open up the Q&A, just for people to ask some questions. I do see a few on the chat, so I am just going to go ahead and ask you guys some questions that I see on the chat. And if anyone has a question, go ahead and ask it in the chat. We'll try our best to get to it. But I do see one right now. It says, what if we have a job where our pay varies each week by more than $1,000? Your handbook asks for a minimum of 2 pay stubs, but does not mention a maximum.
So if it varies that largely, like I said, we can ask for monthly income and compare it that way, versus the weekly. If it varies that way, so we would probably ask for a month or two's worth of pay in that situation. We can even go as far as 3 to 4 months, anything to get an accurate average for the tenant.
Okay, perfect. Someone said, when do we receive appointment notices for our annual recertification? I believe we did mention, I believe it was
20 days.
120 days.
120 days prior to your annual recertification, you should receive a notice. Regarding the bank statements, why do you require all pages of the bank statement? Um, I'm sorry. Well, pretty much they're just the bank statement requires all pages, correct?
Correct.
Okay, there's no ifs or buts for that.
So when we ask for a bank statement, we are just quickly glancing just to verify that there isn't any extra income that's coming in. You just quickly glance at it. We don't do anything crazy with it. And we just take the ending balance of your asset and put it into your asset.
If we pay for medical insurance, do we receive an allowance for that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Is that someone asked if we pay for medical insurance, do we receive an allowance for that?
Yes, you can submit the verification. If you are a family that qualifies for that allowance, then yes.
Okay. Would a purchase medical device count as a medical expense?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Um, I see a question here that says, what if my savings was cut in half? Will my rent go down?
No, so that we wouldn't use the savings towards income. It's an asset.
Okay. And then for the recertification, if they can't get into Rent Cafe, they do receive it through mail, correct?
Correct.
Correct. If they can't get into Rent Cafe, we can assist them.
Okay. So someone asked, how is the utility amount exception determined?
Can you repeat that?
Someone asked, how does the utility amount exception, how is it determined? The utility amount. I'm not really sure what that means.
Hmm. So can I
Hold on.
yeah.
Can you repeat that question one more time, please?
Yeah, someone said, how is utility amount exception determined?
Well,
Exception.
the utility allowance is determined by other parties that help us determine generally what this amount or for this actual source of that utility, how much it is for this area for 1 bedroom units, or even down to studios up to 6 bedroom units. So again, that fluctuates.
It varies
Yeah,
from
it
family
varies
to family.
from a studio all the way up to generally what we deal with to like 5, 6 bedroom units,
Okay, perfect.
which is what we utilize. Again, I'm sorry, and that's what we utilize for the utility calculations, utility allowance calculations.
Mhm. Okay, thank you for that. So someone mentioned, what if I want to terminate my bees? Who do I have to notify?
You
Terminate their lease.
Yeah, so you have to look at because as the lease is a law-abiding document, the landlord and the tenant
Mhm.
has to uphold their lease as well. So generally, leases will state what type of notice that the tenant has to give Lake County Housing. Well, Lake County Housing Authority is required 30 days notice, but the lease will specify what type of notice the tenant must give their landlord prior to the expiration of the lease.
They can
Okay,
break their lease as long as there's a mutual agreement between the landlord and the tenant. And the housing
okay,
authority will accept it. We just have to ensure that the landlord's okay with them breaking the lease.
And it has to be submitted to us in writing.
Hmm.
okay. Um, how is asset income calculated?
How is income as I'm sorry.
How is asset income calculated? Like if they have assets,
Mhm.
how is it calculated?
No, you're okay. So it just depends on the interest rates, and how much the asset is. They would have to surpass a certain amount for it to begin to add to your rent and calculate income. It all depends on the interest rate and how much the asset is, essentially.
Okay, there's so many questions. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get
No, you're okay.
okay, I'm just trying to make sure I give you guys like some good questions. Not that there's any that are not good, but I want to make sure you guys answer some that maybe most people will have.
Like,
Someone asked, what happens if my social security income stops? Will I get put out of the program?
no, you would just request an adjustment of your rent and submit the supporting documentation in writing.
Okay, perfect. What if there are illegal items on the lease?
It would be best to notify Lake County Housing Authority of those of the lease itself. Generally, prior to us processing the housing assistance payment contract with the landlord, we will review the lease and make sure certain aspects of the lease are good to go.
Hmm. And we would refer them to paralegal services.
And also
Perfect.
it's also best to discuss with the landlord because again, that lease is with the landlord and the tenant.
Okay, someone asked if someone gets a felony while on the voucher program, what should they do? Like, do they get put out of the program?
So they are to report that and let us know. And it is practice that they could see an intent to terminate be sent to them, but they can appeal that decision and request a hearing, and then the hearing officer can review and decide.
Okay. All right, so I think there's one more question and maybe we should be good. Um, someone asked sorry, I lost it. If we are not in the Section 8 program, but in the low income housing program, are we able to request to move without losing the assistance?
The low income.
Low income program, you're trying to go into the Section 8 program?
If we are not in the Section 8 program, I'm assuming voucher program,
Correct.
but in the low income housing program,
They
are
will have to
we-
go.
So it sounds like they could lose their subsidy because if I'm not mistaken, I believe their subsidy is tied to wherever it is that they are residing. So no, unfortunately, you cannot request to move. But you may want to follow up with that as far as where you're, because I don't believe you have subsidy that would follow you, if that makes sense.
But they are able to apply for the voucher.
Once the wait list is open.
Correct.
Mhm. And we
Okay.
don't have a determined date on that.
Okay, perfect. If anyone else has any questions, you guys can always go ahead and email us. Here is a way to get in touch with LCHA. On the screen, you will see the email that you can send your questions to. You will also see the address to our building, and you will also see our phone number. If you do have any other questions, you can always just go ahead and contact us. We will get back to you. But other than that, I do want to thank you, Yanni and Solomon, for giving us this information. I myself have been learning from it as well, so I do appreciate you guys for that. Other than that, I think we should be good. I don't see any other questions. So is there anything else you guys want to say?
I appreciate you guys attending. I appreciate the opportunity. We are here for you guys. We are here to work together as a team. Everything is in a triangle. We have the landlord. Without the landlord, we won't have you guys. Without you guys won't have us. It's a full circle. Again, we all are here together.
Yes.
We all are connected and we're here to work with each other.
And again, we appreciate your guys' patience when you're working with us. We really do.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us and for giving us knowledge and information. And hopefully the people that have joined this call, they have a bunch of their questions answered and that, they have more knowledge going into their research and all of that. So yeah, other than that, you guys, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and contact us and we will get back to you guys as soon as possible. But yeah, I hope you guys all have a great day. And again, thank you so much, Yanni and Solomon, for joining us today.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
Have a good
All
one.
right, bye guys.
Bye.
Have a
Bye-bye.
good one.